want to talk about something you talk about a lot.
Okay.
And I want to come up with a new framework. And this is going to get kind of nerdy, and that's okay.
It's good.
Cool? It's okay?
Yes.
All right. I want to talk about comparison.
Okay.
And here's where I want to kind of unpack it. And so I'm going to talk too much, but you're the comparison guru. And I've been trying to dig into the nerd stuff of comparison.
Yes.
And here's what I've come up with. And so by the time we get done going back and forth, I want to land on a new framework about comparison. Okay? So we have Teddy Roosevelt, Mark Twain, Dr. Cummings, whoever you say it. Comparison's the thief of joy. It's the death of joy, all that. So I've written this down. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm reading some of this. I just want to make sure I get this right. There's a lot of scientific literature, tons, about how comparison, social comparison is the nerd word, is actually wired into us. Comparison is a feature of being an animal. Not a problem, not a bug. We have such an innate need for connection that we're designed to always be looking for where we stand, rank, and compare. Always be doing this all the time because if our tribe leaves us, we're dead, right? Yep. So wired into us is this idea of, am I over here? Am I over here? Where do I stand? I'm short, I'm tall, I'm big, I'm strong. What's my role? What am I supposed to be doing? So I started to ask myself, if comparison is part of us, wired into us as a feature, not a bug in the system, I also look around, and comparison is a thief of joy. It destroys us, right? And so I'm trying to navigate both of them. It's an innate part of us.
Yeah.
And in this current world we live in, it kills us. It destroys our marriages. It destroys everything, right?
Yeah.
And so you've talked to moms for years. You've talked to men and women for years. You've been having this conversation about comparison. If I lay both of those down, that it's a part of us. It's how we're wired. It's how we're built and designed, and yet it kills us. How does that hit you? Does that hit you as right, or does that hit you as where do we get off?
Because I think comparison is I think it's the thing that it's the car we jump in to ride, but when we start to turn on the jealousy routes and the envy routes,
I wrote envy down.
Oh, you did?
That's
okay.
what I wrote down.
So that's the actual thing that I think destroys us. I think comparison is the thing we get in that leads us there, but comparing, my sweater and her sweater. It's like, oh, mine's cable knit. Hers is, okay, that's cool. That's great. I made a comparison, a literal comparison. But then suddenly when I want what she has and I don't have it, so now I want to get it, that's envy and jealousy. And that's the world that I think takes over. That is bad.
Okay.
That's the problem, I think.
So comparison in and of itself may not be the demon, it's envy.
I think so, because you can't have envy without comparison, right?
I think a starting line is comparison.
Right. Yeah. I don't think you just jump to, I want that. There's a level of like, oh my gosh. Well, especially when it's a person, right? Because you're comparing with another person, another human being. They have something and I want it, whether it's the marriage, the lifestyle, the whatever. Like, and again, I think there can be I want that. And I'm still good with myself and content. And maybe that's something I strive for. Ooh, that's a fun job.
Yeah.
I would love to do that one day. Right? Like there's that's not jealousy.
All right, the last one is, and you wrote an amazing book about it. Let me grab it.
An amazing book. Sweet little book. Look at that. Sweet book.
So my wife is a children's literature aficionado, right? And I don't fully understand how smart she is, but I know that she taught teachers how to teach kids how to read. She's like a literacy person. And she is a huge proponent of children's literature and how pictures are reading. And turning the pages is actually technology. And it's a path for kids' neural connections to begin to develop, right? So you can read a book like this, and you can read a book like this when you're a young one, right?
Yeah.
And there's some really clear scientific literature that says you want to set your kids apart over an arc of their life, read to them when they're young. So when you said, hey, I'm putting out a children's book, I was super excited about it. And then, of course, this is just so magical and beautiful. A lot of this, it's called I'm Glad for What I Have. But you talk about what I think is the antidote for envy, the antidote for all of this is gratitude. Being grateful for what you got. Right? And not being ambitious, not having dreams for the future, but being able to stay right now.
And contentment.
I'm so blessed. Contentment. Yes. So talk to me about contentment.
There's like a sense of just peace that we're okay. Like we can have nice stuff. We don't have to have nice stuff. Like regardless of what's going on around us, there's just this level of where we are settled, we're going to find happiness and joy in that. It's kind of what we were talking about earlier, but for me, that's what it is.
It's a choice.
Yeah, and the stuff may come and go, but regardless of that, it's beyond that. Is how are you feeling? What's your state of your heart? Like, where are you at? So,
would you agree that that's something you practice?
Yes. Oh, I think so.
It's like a skill.
And gratitude, I think, is part of that, right? I think being grateful for what you have leads into that contentment. But it's a choice. I'm like, but there's a level of like, I have to choose this. And sometimes it comes easier than others. And I feel like that's the fun part when it does become like, oh no, okay, we're good. Like they're over here doing this X, Y, and Z, or the new Suburban pulls in, but I got my minivan. I'm good.
But you can go over there and be like, this car's amazing.
Yeah, be excited for people. Oh, sure.
And that doesn't mean you hate your car.
No.
And you can go home and be like, I want to have that Suburban one day. Cool, let's put the work in. Let's figure out what that would look like, right?
Sure, yeah.
Our marriage isn't going to change if we have that Suburban, just so we know.
Right. It's good. But yeah, so the kids' book,
this.
I was excited about it because I have, 4, 6, and 8-year-old at home. And like bedtime stories. It's a thing. And I always love the books that have like a message at the end that I'm like, as a parent, I'm like, oh, that was so good to hear. So I wanted that. I wanted it to be short. I wanted it to rhyme. I wanted to have animals. So I had this like whole dream. And contentment, is for me a huge message for my kids because I'm a natural spender. I'm the one that can be the like, oh my gosh, I'm going to accumulate because it's fun and I love it.
Jeez.
And my kids started to be like, where's the Amazon guy? Like, like they started asking questions. I was like, oh no, I've turned them into me. So I wanted a book just to walk them through the story of like, hey, you want new toys, you want all of this stuff. And it's not right or wrong, right? There's not like a moral compass to this stuff. But at the end of the day, can we understand that the stuff is not the thing that's going to fulfill us? And so that was the message I wanted to put in. And and there's a spiritual element at the end of God. And we've talked about this, but having a higher power, choosing to look beyond yourself and attaching yourself to something else besides just you is really healthy. So for me, it's God and it's in the book. But for other people, maybe something else, which is fine. But that's another big thing that I'm like, when we become our own gods, like that's when life gets messy. I think you've talked about this a lot, which I think is so, I think it was you when I was hearing it, I was like, that is so right. That's it. Like that's so right.
I like to think of it like the more I stare at my own belly button, I can only go in a spiral. I can only go in a quick spinning spiral.
Yep.
It's when I pick my head up.
Yes.
And beyond that, picking my head up, I also, my hands are coming up right now if you're not watching this, but it's this sense of I don't control anything.
Yep.
I don't control anything.
Yep.
And I'm going to be grateful for where I got put. And because I happen to live in this little sliver of history, I have an opportunity to maybe earn some more money or maybe I can do some neat things professionally or whatever. But I'm going to be grateful for what I got.
Yep.
And yes, comparison's wired to me. I'm going to look to my right and my left and make sure I'm treating my wife right, make sure my kids are healthy and somewhat developmentally appropriate. But I'm also not going to just walk around envious of, I wish I had that. And I can't believe they have that. They don't deserve that.
Yes.
I'm not going to live like that.
Yep.
I'm going to choose to open my hands up and look up and say, thank you.
Yep.
And please give me some rain tomorrow.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And it just, my whole body just, even just saying that out loud, my body just goes, right?
It's like restful. Yes.
Yeah,
there's like
it's
peace in that.
It's peace, yeah.
Totally.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming to hang out.
I know.
You're
Thanks
awesome.
for having me on. Appreciate it.
And for those of y'all watching, this conversation we just have all the time. It's just, y'all get to hear it. So cool.
I know. So
Appreciate you. You're awesome.
Cheers.